Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm very grateful to be back with you again on this panel, as well as with our other colleagues. So as Michelle mentioned, today I'm going to talk about the role that we can play as a convener of technology and people across the different coasts and waterways that we have here in our world. So I'll just share my screen. So as Michelle mentioned, we have this rising awareness of mental health globally, both as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and the growing influence that it's had on our global environment. And at the Texas Medical Center, we think about taking influence from around the world and bring that influence to Houston and to the US economy market as an entry point to accessing new opportunities to really share technologies globally. Because we have different systems that really pay for managed care and have different populations across the world, different types of technologies emerge at different rates in different places around the world. So different systems might have faster advances in telemedicine, for example, while other systems might be more willing to pay for different types of technologies and thus see a more rapid advancement. Or core technologies and things like data security might advance certain types of technologies in certain regions because the talent and inherent technology that's based in that geography. And so at the Texas Medical Center, we think about bringing all of these people together with our team, as well as the broader community that's here in the medical center. So what is the Texas Medical Center? We are a convener, a host of a lot of different types of health systems, academic institutions, where the top quality of research, academic, and clinical care takes place. We have 61 different institutions on a 2 square mile radius of our campus and have plans to rapidly expand our translational research footprint and beyond here in Houston, Texas. And so the Texas Medical Center is a place where we can convene not only the best clinical care, but also the earliest stage of research. And my team at TMC Innovation is really eager to bring together all of these different people into the same place, and so that we can all collaborate together. Why does this matter? Here on the TMC campus, we have the world's largest cancer hospital and children's hospital. Baylor College of Medicine is where the Menninger Clinic is staffed out of and is one of many of the huge brands that are part of our community. Altogether, we have 10 million patients visit this campus each year. A baby is born every 20 seconds. So the scale of what we're doing, both from a clinical and research perspective, is immense. But all of this is only possible because of the incredible talent and care that happens on our campus. So our role at TMC Innovation is to support all of these efforts happening across all of these major players. And so what is TMC Innovation? TMC Innovation is a place where different innovators, companies, large corporates, and small biotechs can come together to have a landing place where we can better understand how their technologies will fit in with our partners and collaborators here at the Texas Medical Center. Why do we care about this on a transatlantic stage? Because we believe that we can be a great place for different technologies from around the world to come and be a part of their growth here in the US. And so we've created 3 BioBridge programs with Denmark, the UK, and Australia, so that we can leverage both technology that's coming out of those different countries, as well as provide opportunities for US-based companies to grow into those markets as they scale. So to this end, we've created these different discussions together with our partners in our BioBridges, which is how we first came together earlier this year to talk about the future of behavioral health. It's also the way that we can really understand which technologies are growing in Denmark, in the UK, and in Australia, and that would have potential advantages here in the medical center. So a few things that we've learned so far. So technology is not all about something that is a brand name for what patients can see and touch. Sometimes it is. It could be wearables that give clinicians more data about heart rate variability or other different biometrics. It could also be virtual reality. So how are we trying to incorporate new technologies into therapy itself and doing some research there? But technology can also be administrative support. So how the notes are being written and freeing up time for clinicians to be more with their patients and with their families at home. It could also incorporate how we're coding and billing and communicating with different people across the whole ecosystem, both internally within the hospital as well as external partners, about what evidence-based treatments are being used throughout that system. Or we can think about technology that scales, telehealth, for example. So things like the wearables and other teams that Michelle mentioned earlier, but also technology that can enable patient data to be input asynchronously or that can extend provider networks at scale. But as Michelle really mentioned, the thing that we focus on most at TMC Innovation when we're coaching different startups from around the world is really about how to build, maintain trust with our different partners here in the Texas Medical Center. Because really it's not about technology at the end of the day. Technology is simply a tool to enable a clinician to have more data that's really relevant for them, or it's a tool for their life to be made easier on a day-to-day basis, or it's really just one piece of the larger treatment paradigm and the larger way that we all move throughout our day. And so our role that we see is trying to bridge that gap between an innovator who might be an engineer and who might not really have the full context of what's happening within a whole system, to try and help them to understand what the context is that they need to bring into a conversation to give the best chance for that technology to really be implemented if it should be. And so that's what we've been focusing on here at the Texas Medical Center. Can we build a bridge, both literally and figuratively, between the different stakeholders within our own ecosystem here in Houston, as well as across the world, to really better bring together different stakeholders. But at the core of all of that is trust, because without trust, none of this happens. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. That was really great introduction to TMC Innovation and the work that you all are doing globally. So for those of you who have just joined us, we will do a rapid fire Q&A in between each of our panelists. A few questions that I've come up with. So, and then we'll do a more intensive discussion and get questions from the audience at the end. So Emily, you mentioned obviously trust. None of this happens without trust, and trust, building trust with other institutions, for example, in a Texas Medical Center. So do you see startups, innovators, computer scientists, engineers taking, right, that's a psychological construct or social construct. Do you see them taking the role of trust seriously? And if not, or if so, in what way?
Yeah, that certainly varies across innovators and across different stages. And so we certainly work to bring in the partners that are ready to have that conversation about trust in a meaningful way and that have already built trust with other different stakeholders in their own geographies, for example. But at the low end of awareness of trust, we have some innovators who think their technology is so cool and so game-changing and solves exactly the problem that they had themselves or that they know about really well, and they can't understand why nobody will use it. And then we have others that have, sold into multiple different hospitals within their own geography who do understand the role of trust, but may not understand how to communicate about the different value, the return on investment, not only for the hospital or the clinician, but also for all the different stakeholders involved. And so it's really about how can we take the data that exists about whatever it is, the core technology, the existing ROI that they might have already developed, or some other piece, and translate that into a way that's going to be meaningful for the new partnership that they're trying to build. And so it certainly varies across different stakeholders, but fundamentally, we know that without trust, no conversation is going to move forward. So it's really at the core of what we're trying to do with all of our different innovators, is to work with them to better manage that new budding relationship through a trust-based process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. It is not as simple. It sounds really kind of simple and easy, but right, we know, like, for example, just from psychology, I'm a clinical psychologist, moving someone, right, changing behavior, changing kind of sense of awareness, that it is hard, right? It is really hard. And so you guys are doing amazing work in the Texas Medical Center and for innovation. So